Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon and welcome back. My name is Michael Barth. This is the PorscheCooled Podcast, and it's owner stories today. Every Tuesday, I talk to a different Porsche owner around the world, pre-recorded, of course, because we're always doing these by Zoom, but it's a Porsche owner from somewhere in the world. Today, I've got Jeremy coming in, and Jeremy's coming in from the UK, where I am actually at the moment, but we're doing this through Zoom, of course. If you want to be on Owner Stories, though, before we get into Jeremy's story, if you want to be on Owner Stories, all you need to do is just contact me through Instagram. It's the best place to get a hold of me. PorscheCooled on Instagram or Michael.Barth on Instagram. It's probably the best two to contact me through. I do have another Instagram, which is P997.1. You guys that know me, I have three. I'm juggling three Instagram accounts for some stupid reason. Anyway, this is Owner Stories today. Like I said, Jeremy's coming in from the UK. He's a long-time Porsche enthusiast, Porsche fan. He's had a few Porsches, and we're going to get him on the line on Zoom. I'm going to get him on the line right now, actually. I've got about 5 minutes to connect, and we're going to talk to Jeremy about his PorscheCooled Owner Story. Okay, welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to Owner Stories. I didn't mention it before in the pre-intro before I've got Jeremy online here, but it's number 42. So it's number 42 of the Owner Stories. And today I am joined by Jeremy, coming in from the UK, coming from the Cotswolds. Good evening, Jeremy. How are you?
I'm very well. Good to speak to you, Michael.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you on. And I just want to tell the listeners, Jeremy reached out to me on Facebook Messenger, which is not something I use a lot. So I'm always a bit slower to respond on Facebook Messenger, but I eventually get around to it. But Jeremy just reminded me that, when was it, Jeremy? It was when Luftkult was on in the UK. You reached out to me and we were gonna meet up at that event, weren't we?
A couple of years, 2-3 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was. It was just after the Porsche celebration, wasn't it? So it must have been 2018 or 2017, I think, something like that.
Absolutely, yeah. It was a great event, but awful weather.
Yeah, it was. Okay, so we always like to start owner stories. We always like to start them, or I always like to start them with the same question. And it's about where your Porsche journey began, like when you first started noticing Porsches, noticing 911s. Was it a relative that you had when you were a kid, or was it, a neighbor, or did it all happen for you much later in life? So when did the Porsche thing all start for you, Jeremy?
So for me, really early. So I remember I've got a photo of the actual day in question. So my father's boss lent my uncle, who also worked for the same company, his car for a week. And we're all pretty big car guys in the family. And the particular car was a 930 Turbo in Guards Red. And I was probably 9-10 years old. And I went over to my grandparents where the car was. And my uncle took me for a drive in it. And I just could not stop smiling. It was an amazing experience. I've got a photograph of me sat in that 930 Turbo, which I've kind of kept in my wallet for a lot of years, because I always wanted a 911. It's always been my goal. And I now keep a copy of that photograph in my sun visor in my car, just to remind me where it started and where I am now.
Yeah, and I have to tell the listeners, you actually sent me that photo on Facebook, and I was wondering, I was pretty sure that was you as a kid, but it's so great that you keep those photos, because sometimes those photos like that get lost, don't they? You know what I mean? And it's such and it is the red. So it was a turbo. I was going to ask you whether it was a turbo or just a 3.2 Carrera. So it is an actual turbo, red turbo.
Actual turbo, yeah, which was really, really scary but exhilarating at the same time. And that's where the passion started. And also my mother worked for a dentist, and he had a 924S. And he used to sort of pick me up from school occasionally or take me for a spin. And at that time, as a Porsche owner, you used to get a calendar every year. And he used to give me that calendar. So every month had a different Porsche on it.
Oh, really? That's great.
Yeah. So from a really early age, I was just totally focused on getting a Porsche at some point.
So you're looking at that calendar as a kid, working out which one you're going to get first. It's like, which one is it going to be? Pretty good
it
introduction,
was.
though. A turbo and a 924S. So it's kind of like, both sides of the spectrum, isn't it? Both sides of those
Absolutely.
great.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. So that's a while back. That's when you're a kid.
Yeah.
You're thinking about it. What happens with the Porsche? What happens with the Porsche journey after that? Do you go into like regular cars, like a lot of the owners that I speak to, because of just because of life, basically, or do you look at other sports cars, or what happens next after that?
Okay. So I pretty much got the Porsche bug and the car bug from that day on. So when I was just turned 17, I got my first car, which was an Alfa Romeo Alfasud 1.5, which was only cost me £500. It was red with gold wheels. I thought it was a Dino or something. It really was. I loved it. It was, full of
They're
rust.
kind of special, though, weren't they? The
They
Alpha
were.
Suds were kind of yeah, yeah. I remember those. They're kind of cool. They're very cool looking.
Yeah, I'm still looking in the classifieds now to get one. I really want to. Everyone likes to get their first car back, don't they? I'm sure it got trashed, but I would like to get a concourse one or something and have it back home, because it has a lot of fond memories.
So that's an early car. You're having fun with that. It's a driver's car. It's an exotic car. It's an Italian car. So how long before you start thinking, I can get a Porsche? Is it quite some years, or is there another alternative that comes in between then? Because a lot of people get BMWs, a lot of people get other German cars, and then, even things like, Lotuses, and then make their way into 911. Is that what happened for you, or did you go in a different direction?
I had a couple of Triumph Spitfires.
Okay.
When I was a teenager, which were fun but awful. And then I went the German route, which we all do. So I had, with the exception of a Toyota MR2, which I had a T-Bar, which was great. I had a couple of Golf GTIs, and I've had 5 Mercedes and 1 BMW before I got to Porsche. So, like a lot of guys, I went the German route.
So what Mercedes did you have? Were they practical ones, or were they the sportier AMG style ones?
Yeah, so I was sort of middle management, really. So I had a lot of sort of C classes. I had eventually got to a CLK 320, which was a 1998. That was a great car. And then I had a C class convertible. I had a 320 touring BMW.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
But you mentioned the MR2 as well. You had a MR2 way back there. They were very special cars, and still are, aren't they? They're sought after again today. People are always searching them out.
Yeah. So that was a 1991, and it was a company car, actually. My boss said to me, he had a 550 Maranello.
Oh, really?
And he said, Jeremy, you're not quite ready for a Ferrari yet, but this thing's the nearest we can give you. It's sort of rear-engined, pop-up lights. It looks great. So I loved it. It was a fantastic car.
Yeah, they were. They were pretty special at the time. I remember I had a friend that had one, actually. He had one. I don't know if it was that model, or it was a little bit earlier, but he had one, and it was pretty special at the time. I mean, it was definitely a different sort of car than a lot of other cars that were going around. All right, so you've gone through the corporate thing. You've had the company cars. You've had these cars, but when does it happen then? So when do you think, okay, I'm going to look for a Porsche. I'm going to get it as my second car, or I'm going to get it as my main car. What is the one that comes first? Because you've got the memories of that turbo. You've got the memories of that 924. What do you start looking for? And do you buy what you intended to buy, or did you go off track a little bit?
So I knew it was going to happen. And then one day I found out that my sort of favorite Porsche dealership, Dick Lovett, were opening a showroom 2 miles from my office in Tewkesbury. And I thought, oh no, this is not going to go well.
Yeah.
And very shortly after, as soon as it opened, they had an opening do. I went in there and got talking to a lovely salesman and ended up placing an order for my first Porsche.
And when was that, Jeremy? How long ago was that?
So that was 2016. So the 718 Boxster and Cayman had just been released,
Okay.
and that's what I ordered. So I had one of the first ones on the road.
So you optioned it yourself. It wasn't a car that was in stock. You actually spec'd it out exactly how you wanted it.
I spec'd it from factory. So it was just a base 718 Boxster in the basic white color. Had the Carrera classic wheels, manual.
Okay. Perfect.
Very, very few options because at the time, 2016, it was quite a big purchase for me. But yeah, I had that car for 4 years.
4 years. So you ordered
Yeah.
it from new. So you have that peace of mind with the warranty and all that. So there was no issues with the 718 Boxster, was there? There was no like recalls or any major issues with it. It's quite a reliable car, wasn't it? The first gen.
Yeah, I did 70,000 miles in that car.
Wow.
And it did not, nothing ever went wrong. It was perfect.
So when you had the car for 4 years, when other owners that I've spoken to, normally when they option a car and they spec it from new, they don't tend to add too many things to the car because they bought it pretty much how they wanted it. Was there anything that you added to your first Porsche, to your 718 Boxster over the 4 year period?
No, I did. I swapped out the exhaust, only the tips. It had the single oval exhaust, which was quite nice, but I wanted the look of the twin pipes. So I took it back to the dealership after about a year and just swapped out the tailpipes. But apart from that, I didn't change a thing. It was pretty standard spec. It had the 19-inch wheels, say manual, black leather interior, just with the embossed crest on the headrests. Had sports chrono, which is something I wanted.
Yep.
But that was about it. But as I say, I did loads of European trips in that car, and it just never missed a beat.
So I always like to ask this question because it's that memory that you have. Because it's I always remember the first time I got my 911, my 997, the first proper drive I went with it. So with you, how was that feeling when you're thinking back to when you're a kid, you're thinking about those Porsches, and you get into your 718 and you take it on one of these great drives, either where you live or in Europe? How was that feeling?
It was an amazing feeling, and it was great to get into a Porsche, but I knew it was just a stepping stone because what I really wanted was a 911, and those are twice the price. So I just had to, over those four years, get to that point.
Okay, here's a question for you, Jeremy. When you went to buy the 718, you weren't tempted to pick up in 2016 like a 997.2 or a 996. You weren't tempted to get a older generation 911?
Yeah, I did give it some thought. A lot of my friends have got older generations, but I just wanted something because I was going to use it, as a daily. I wanted something super reliable. I wanted a warranty. I just wanted something that was just not going to give me any trouble. Over those 70,000 miles, I didn't miss a beat. Went around Europe 3 times.
Wow,
it was
fantastic.
Just perfect.
So the warranty in the UK, so the 4 years, it was warranted the whole time you owned it, so you didn't have to put anything really up front except for just general servicing?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, so you're driving it a lot, you're enjoying it, which we all like to hear. So then you start to get that itch, like you said, because ultimately we all want a 911. When did you start thinking about buying a 911?
So it was just when the pandemic started.
Okay.
So it was, February 2020. So during the pandemic, I thought, what, if I don't do it now, because everyone was talking about them being electrified, and going down that route. And for me, that's just not an option. That's not what Porsches or 911s are about. So I thought if I don't pull the trigger now, I might miss my chance. So I placed my order in February 2020.
So February 2020 is like a month before everything fell apart, I think, wasn't it? I mean, I was in Bahrain at the time, and March is pretty much when everything started to fall apart, wasn't it?
It was.
So you ordered your car. So it's not in stock again. It's a special optioned order. How long did it take you to work out? Did you get onto the configurator at home and mess around for nights on end trying to work out your spec? How did you work out what you were going to buy?
So yeah, absolutely. I was, and I still spend too much time on the configurator. But yes, I kind of knew in my head what I wanted. What I wanted the car to look like. So I spec'd it out in about a week. Went into the dealership and tried to negotiate a deal, which wasn't. I quickly realised wasn't going to happen. I think I got some free floor mats and placed the order. Yeah.
Okay, so when you're thinking about what to buy, were you tempted to? And the listeners will know what you bought because it's in the title of the podcast. But were you tempted to go up a level? Were you tempted to look at the Carrera S, or were you tempted to look at a GTS, or did you think I want a 911 and the base? Let's not call it base, but the Carrera is going to be enough for my needs. Is that how it was, or was? How did you make that decision?
Yeah, I'm a great believer in, the cars are getting so powerful now, aren't they? This is, nearly 400 brake horsepower. I just don't think I need the 450 that the S has got. Saying that, I'm sure I'll go that route at some point. But at the time, I thought 400 is enough for me. Let's just see how I get on with it. And, I love it.
Yeah, and there is a lot of stuff online about that, isn't there? About that the 992 in the Carrera, not the Carrera S, is really all that you need. As you know, I have a 997.1 Carrera, and I don't think it's lacking power, even though I'm sure the Carrera S in the 997 or the Carrera GTS is obviously much faster. But as an experience goes, I don't know if you really do miss that much. And as long as, like you said, as long as you can also get the options you want, you can, if you're buying it new, you can specify it the way you like. Therefore, it is more personalized. Nick in Australia, Architect Driving, who's got a 991.2 Carrera, he spec'd it in the base as well. He spec'd it in manual, and he just spec'd it exactly how he wanted it. I mean, similar to how you've spec'd your 992, I guess. I'm a true believer like you. I think the base is there's plenty of power there. Absolutely plenty of power. So what did you tell the listeners before we get into talking about the 992? Tell the listeners exactly what you bought and the options you went with and the options you attempted to go with, maybe even, Jeremy, but you didn't select.
Yeah, it's an interesting story, actually, because I almost made a huge mistake. But I went for another white. I like white Porsches. White 992 with PDK with the 21-inch graphite RS Spider wheels. I also got the Bose sound system, the black leather interior with the crayon stitching, the sports exhaust. I tried a demo with and without, and it was just an absolute a must. So I went for the sports exhaust, sports chrono, and it just came out at that time, and I'm really pleased I went for it. Was the clear rear lenses, so it hasn't got the red bacon strips as they call it on the back. It's got the clear lenses and the clear rear lights, and it just I think it looks fantastic. Electric mirrors, Porsche crests on the headrest, and the parking aids and that sort of thing. So yeah, I spec'd it with everything I wanted.
What is it about the Porsche crest on the headrest? There's something special about those, but they're such a little option, isn't it? I don't know. It's like the seats need that crest, don't they? I know you said you had it on your 718 as well.
Yes.
But they kind of do just finalize everything, don't they? They always look good. It's like having even the crest on your console lid, I don't know. Yeah. Sometimes it just makes that little bit of difference. You spec'd it really well, though. The wheels, I love those wheels. I think they're one of the best wheels on the 992. I don't know what all the wheels are called. I don't mind the ones that are just the plain sort of flat face sort of spoke ones as well. I'm not sure what they're called. I think you can get them in black as well, those ones.
Yeah.
But I was saying on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, I saw one here in Canary Wharf. I saw the crayon or the chalk 992. And every time I see a 992, I always appreciate it a little bit more. You know what I mean? Like it really is a well-designed generation of the 911. And the rear that people were a little bit worried about at first, it just, when you see it in really real life and you're at that level and you see it, going around a roundabout or whatever, it really is a fantastic shape, isn't it?
It is. I think it's true to the original form. I'm looking at it now, actually, and it's a great looking car.
And it's a nice spec. You've done a really nice spec on it, I think. Really nice option. And so the sports exhausts on the 992 really makes a big difference, does it?
It does. I spec'd it without the sports exhaust, and the salesman said, "Are you sure?" And I said, "Yeah, I think it sounds okay." He said, "Pop in, and we've got one here that's got one with and one without." Right. And he started them both up, and it was night and day. I thought, blimey, I can't be without this. So
was the decision in the beginning not to have it due to cost, or just because you didn't think it needed the extra sound?
I just didn't think it needed, I'm a big fan of that flat six, but it was a bit muted.
Right.
And when I heard it with the sports exhaust, it just sounded, so much better. I mean, I drive my car every day, and I never not have that sports exhaust on.
So your cars, your Porsches are daily drivers. So this is a daily driver as well. This is your one sort of main car.
Yeah, probably drive it 4 days a week, probably.
So how was the experience before we get into the driving experience, Jeremy, the experience of getting out of the 718, and that was a new car, and it's still a special car, but getting out of the interior of the 718 and getting into the new generation of the 911, I mean, I love the interior of the 992, and I said that to you in your Facebook post. It's just such a fantastic interior. How did it feel sitting in the car? Because it feels like there's so much going on, but there's so much to appreciate, isn't there?
There is. It's a really special place to sit. I'm a big fan of the older Porsches, so I was a bit unsure about all the big screens and the lack of switches. But I've really come around to it. I mean, it really is that sort of Panamera type look. I absolutely love it. And
that the center dial, the analog dial, really works well, doesn't it? With the digital, it just looks fantastic. You have a lot of customization on that too, don't you? On the 992. You
do. And the only thing I would sort of switch out is that sort of gear selector that looks like a shaver. That's the only thing I get in there every morning and think, I wish there was someone's going to come up with an option, I'm sure.
I don't know. I don't hate it. They've changed that now, haven't they? Have they updated that or not?
I think on the GT3, it's
On the GT3,
they've gone back to a sort of gear stick look.
I don't dislike it. Has yours got the piano black trim? Has it got piano black trim?
It has.
What do you think of that?
It's quite fun to keep clean.
Yeah.
I had to order some makeup brushes online from Amazon to keep in the glove box, just to give a little brush each day. It was a tip I got from James May on Top Gear.
Oh, really?
So I keep some brushes in the glove box just to keep it clean, because you start rubbing it with a cloth, it scratches. And
actually, you're right. That's what all the main detailers use, don't they? They have all the very fine, very expensive makeup brushes. That's right. I did actually see that somewhere. No, I asked you that question because I've had, you're the second owner that's been on Owner Stories who has a 992. The first being Elliot in Seattle. And I think Elliot sent me a message. I know Elliot's probably listening to this, but I think he sent me a message saying the only thing he still wasn't 100% sure about was the piano black trim. Similar to what you said, it's really hard to keep clean. Is there an option not to have that? Is it just you'd have to get the carbon option or a different aluminium option? Would you?
Yeah, you would. I think that is an option now. It wasn't at the time, because I would have gone for it if I could, because I've had piano black before and made the mistake of using a cloth and scratching it. So if it was an option, I would have taken it. But I think it's an option now, but not then.
Okay, so you've got your first 911. You've had it since February 2020. So you've only had it for a year and a half now, right? A year and a half you've owned it.
Yeah, so I ordered it in February, got it in July. So it's actually almost a year old.
All right.
Next couple of weeks. Yeah.
So the order took a reasonable amount of time to, well, in today's standards, that was probably quick because no one can seem to order a 911 at the moment, right? They're just like still backlogged apparently. So you get it in July. And we're still in lockdown in the UK. We're still in lockdown around the world, or semi-lockdown. Is there an opportunity there to go on a really long drive once you run the car in, or did you have to wait much longer?
So the day I got the car, I actually was talking to James at Auto Amateur, and he was then doing asked me if I'd do a video on it on the day I got it. So I did a brief video on the day I collected it. So it had 3-4 miles on the clock. So I did that video for James, and then I just went driving around the Cotswolds, and I don't think I got out of it for 9 or 10 hours.
And I guess that's the great thing, like you said before we started recording, you've got all those great roads at your doorstep, haven't you? You've got those windy country roads with little traffic most of the time,
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah. So was there a long run-in period with the 992? It's just the normal, was it 1,000 miles? Or how long do you have to be careful with the engine?
Yeah, well, the guy, the salesman said that most of the engines are sort of bench tested and running on the bench. So take it easy for the first 1,000 if you want, but really go for it. And the last 12 months I've done nearly 8,000 miles, which is I'm quite impressed during lockdown.
Yeah, that's good actually. That's really impressive. So we go back to the feeling again because the listeners always like to know about that feeling, and you've had those memories as a kid. It's not your first Porsche, but it's your first 911. Was it a pinch me moment? Was it like I can't believe I'm in this car?
Yeah. So on the day of collection, I took my parents along because they've been listening to me chirping on about 911 since I was 10 years old. I've still got my toy Porsches from when I was a kid. I've got in my office now, just to remind me. So I took my parents along, and as soon as the salesman pulled off that, the sheet over the car, I had a bit of a moment. I couldn't quite believe it. It was just amazing, and everything I hoped it would be. It was a really great experience. And I still every morning when I jump in it, I get a buzz, and every time I park it at the supermarket and I take a look back when I walk away.
It's weird, isn't it? How it has that, whether it be a new 992 or a 996 or a 997 or whatever, it does have that feeling over you. It does have that power over you. It's weird. And I've spoken many times before, Jeremy, you probably heard me talk about it on videos and on the podcast, but when I used to go back to Australia like every couple of months from the UK, every time I got in the car, it was like, it's not like you forget how it feels, but when you haven't been in the car for a while, it's just like you realize how good it is. Even for an older 911, you just realize how that experience, especially when you start going around, bends and curves and twisty roads, and then you realize how great it is. How was the feeling, though, of the driving of your 992? So you're thinking back to the 718 and how it handled, because the 718's mid-engine. How was the difference in the feel, in the driving feel for you? Obviously, there's more power, but was there a big difference when you were driving the 911 from your memory of the 718?
Yeah, so the 718 was, so I did lots of trips down to Europe through the Alps and things, and you could just never get it to move. It was just like it was on rails. It was fantastic. And I was always a bit worried, it's probably from that early trip in that 930, where the tail was constantly wagging. I was really worried about losing the back and it being a bit difficult. But I've had it around some pretty windy roads, and it's very stable. I haven't even slightly lost it. I'm quite a fast driver, and it's very stable. I'm very impressed.
That's great. So people who don't know much about 992s, the new Porsches, you said you've done how many miles? 8,000 miles?
Approaching 8,000 miles, yeah. I was hoping to do a lot more, hoping to do some Euro trips this year, but obviously that's not happened.
So what is the service intervals on the new 992s? Has it had its first service already or not?
No, 20,000 miles or 2 years.
20,000 miles. So that's the first oil change.
Yeah.
Are you comfortable with that amount of time, or is that you just trust Porsche with that? Because it seems like a long time, doesn't it?
It does. I do trust them, but I am hoping to get away to Italy later this summer. I was going to take it in for just a health check anyway, just check the tyres and everything else and the fluids. And I'll mention it again then, because I do think that's leaving a little bit too long for a change. So it'll be interesting to see what they say. But I'd say it is a Porsche main dealer that are right next to my office. So I'm very lucky.
And does your car have the suspension on your car? Is it adjustable? What is it? A standard suspension on the Carrera? I'm not quite sure what the options were on the suspension setup.
Yeah, I think there is a couple of options in the PCM where you can change things, but I drive it in sport mode everywhere anyway. So
really,
yeah, I'm never in normal mode.
Can you set your own modes in the 992? Is it customizable, or is it not? I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, you've got an individual mode. You've got that little rotary dial on the steering wheel. So you've got the normal mode, sport plus, and individual. I just knock it into sport mode every time because you get, it's just that the acceleration's a bit tighter, the exhaust seems a bit louder, and that living start-stop doesn't happen every time you hit the lights.
You can turn that off though, right? The start-stop?
I think, yeah, you can.
Yeah, I think I turned that off. So, a lot of people who listen to the podcast, some people don't have a Porsche yet. Some people are searching for their first one. And a lot of the times it comes down to budget. And we always talk about this, how, price is always a consideration. And Porsches, whether they're new or whether they're used, the prices keep going up. Do you think for someone who's coming in new to Porsche and they really want a 911, would you say it's a good move like what you did to get a 718 Boxster before a 911? Or do you think wait and then, get your 911 that you really want?
I would say get a Boxster or a Cayman just so you get to know the brand, because they really look after you, and you get an idea about how the brand operates and what the service is like. I mean, they really look after you. I'll never forget when I ordered my 718. They invited me on a day at Silverstone to the Porsche Centre there, where you get to drive with an instructor and take it on the skid pan and go around the circuit, and they give you a lovely lunch and really look after you. And you just get to know about the brand. And actually, I had some pretty fast cars before, but the 718 was a step up for me. And I think it's been quite useful for me to drive that for 4 years and get used to a performance car before jumping into this, which is another level on. Because I think experience is key.
Yeah, good point. So, yeah, I think you're right, though. I do think you're right. I think it comes back to the point that it's best to, if you want a Porsche, get into the brand. I mean, we always say this, buy the one you can afford, but, it's best to get into the brand, experience the brand, like you said, and enjoy that driving experience and, get your driving skills more honed to, I guess, Porsche or just slightly better, than what they might have been before.
Yes.
Is there anything, I mean, you've got the dealership experience. You said that was really great. Have you bought both your Porsches from the same dealer?
Absolutely. Yeah, I have. And the service has been, really, really superb, actually. And they've just started getting in touch. I popped in to say hi because I've not been in. I used to pop in all the time. I popped in because they've just got a GT3, a 992 GT3 in stock. And I said to the salesman, if you get one in, I've just got to see one in the flesh. So I went to see this black one. It's black on black with a black interior. It's really sort of stealthy. And the guy is actually stuck in Bahrain, I think. He can't come over and collect it yet.
Oh, really?
I feel sorry for him. But it's a really beautiful car. And so I popped in.
Yeah, Bahrain's in the red zone.
Yeah. So I popped in and the salesman was like, yeah, Jeremy, do you feel like moving to your next Porsche? 'Cause they're just trying to get stock. They've got no stock, nothing to sell. The new car orders are full up and the second-hand stock is just non-existent. So
does this mean you're on the short list for the GT3 or the GT3 Touring then? Because you bought two cars from the dealer? You think you're almost there?
No. My CEO's on his 25th 911.
Really?
I think he's even he's not on the list yet. I think you've really got to be. There's just one guy I know at the dealership that gets always gets a GT3, but he's also got a 918 and a Sport Classic and a few other bits and pieces.
Oh, really?
I think he's a really good person. Yeah.
Wow.
So I think you've right. I don't know what the secret is. I don't know how much you've got to spend, but
a lot.
Yeah, I've got a way to go.
So how was the GT3 when you saw it? I'm yet to see one. How was the wing and the rear? Did it look like it was quite resolved? Did you like the look of it?
I did. It's I hit 50 this year, so I think it's a bit young for me. I'm very much in the touring camp. If I was lucky enough to get an allocation and I could afford it, I'd have a GT3 touring. I think that is the perfect 911. A bit more understated.
I think a lot of us are edging towards that way. Even Steve said that he would probably go more in the 992 to the touring than the wing version. And especially now with Instagram, and you see them starting to be delivered, the tourings, also the winged one as well. But you start seeing the colors, and there's some great colors appearing in the touring, and it looks pretty fantastic. I hate to say though, being boring as I always am, the GT Silver one that I saw yesterday, even though I saw that Messiaen, the blue, the very pale sort of golf blue color, there was one that appeared. Silver still looks great. And I do like white in the 992 too. I think the lighter colors in a 992 shape, even like your Carrera, especially with those RS wheels you have, which are just fantastic, those spider wheels, whatever they call them. They just look fantastic. They're quite an expensive option, those wheels, aren't they? They're not a cheap option, are they?
They were, I think, a couple of £1,000, but I just think wheels are everything. I think probably the most important thing on a 911 are the wheels. It can make or break a look of a car. I mentioned earlier about I almost made a mistake, and that was I went in and said to the salesman, "I want to get a sunroof," and he said, "I'm really sorry, it's gone past that point. We can't do that for you." And I was quite upset at the time, but actually, when I look at it now, I think a sunroof would have sort of broken up that sort of black and white look. So I'm pleased I wasn't able to do it in the end.
Yeah, I think you've got the better spec without the sunroof. My 997 has a sunroof. I know people give me grief about this when I say it, but I'm not a big sunroof fan on the 991s or the 992s. I still think, no sunroof is still, like you said, the line is just so much nicer. It really is so much nicer without it. In my opinion. So, what are you planning then? So you must be itching to get to Europe. So you're planning a trip in Italy, and you're planning a trip to Germany. What they're on the cards, hopefully, when everything clears up here again.
Yeah. So in the 718, we went to Monaco. We went to the Black Forest in Germany. We went to Lake Como. We went down to Saint-Tropez in the south of France. We did some great trips. And the plan was get the 911 and do those trips. And we've just not been able to do anything. So we're hoping later this summer we can get away and really stretch its legs and see what it can do in the Swiss Alps, especially because those roads are incredible.
So almost follow the same roads that you took the 718. So you'll have that comparison. Then you'll be able to know what the difference in the handling and everything. Yeah. I guess you will miss that open air experience, right? Because you had the Boxster. Yes. You said you didn't get the sunroof, and I think it's a good. Glad you didn't get the sunroof, but there will be that little bit of you that you will miss that open air experience, especially on some of those roads in the nice sort of evening air.
Yeah, absolutely. My next 911 will be I'd like a Targa, so a bit of best of both worlds.
Yeah, the Targa. I'm a fan of the Targa, but everyone keeps talking about, especially with the 992 generation, about the weight, don't they? Would you look at a 992 generation? Would you think about, maybe trading your car up in a few years for a Targa, or are you thinking the next generation?
Yeah, I'm thinking, I'd like a Targa GTS would be my next and probably final final decision.
992.
Yeah, 992 again. I just, because I use it so often, I just need that warranty, and I just need to know that I'm not going to have any problems, and I can get to see my clients and things. So I think that would be the perfect next move for me.
That's a big jump up, Jeremy, from a Carrera to a. That's a big jump up.
It is.
But it's worth it. I mean, it's a great looking car. You can't, I haven't seen the 992. I haven't seen a 992 on the road yet in the Targa.
Yeah. One of my neighbours has just got one, so I've got to, I've got, there's 5 Porsches on my road.
Really?
And
but then you've got that temptation. It's always there, seeing that Targa. That's not good. That's not good.
No, I know. I'm going to see it every day, and it's going to, but it's black. I will never have another black car. So
I wouldn't do black. I wouldn't do black.
It's just impossible to keep clean.
Well, that's a good thing. So you are still looking. You haven't stopped looking, even though you've only had your car really for a year. You're already planning the next one. We like that. That's the passion. Yeah. That's the passion. So,
well, the sales guy said they'll virtually give me what I paid for it. So
that's crazy. So after a year, that's the demand at the moment. That's because people cannot buy a new 992.
That's right. Yeah, the prices are that crazy. So it's almost a year's free motoring. So who knows?
Yeah, I mean, it's like all the models, though, isn't it? The even the 991 Carrera T and the 991 Touring. All these. I mean, I look on Auto Trader all the time, and they've just dried up. There's just no cars out there at the moment. Everything seems to have. And GTSs. How could to find a GTS manual in a 991.2 is almost impossible. All these cars have just gone.
Yeah. Yeah, so my local dealership's got very little to sell. So it's a big problem, but nice problem for us.
So your dealership is saying that is it about a year's wait before people can get a 992 if they wanted to buy one now, like in the UK?
Yeah, there's I think their order book is full. There are delays. I'm told it's something to do with these chips.
Yes. It's like the main excuses at the moment, though, isn't it? It's the chips or it's COVID. There's always like anything that's delayed. It's always about the computer chip or it's about COVID. It's like, okay, So tell me about the 992. Is there anything, in the year that you've had it, is there anything that bothers you with the car? Is there any little niggle that you think, I wish I wouldn't have done that, or why is it doing that? Is there anything at all that's that concerns you?
No, it's been pretty faultless, actually. I've just had a couple of squeaks on the interior, and on the 992 forums, I think it's one of those things. I don't know whether during COVID the Porsche engineers have had to, there's not been so many of them or what, but so the build quality's slipped slightly, and we've had a couple of squeaks, and I'm not alone. I think most of the guys on the forum have said they've had the same sort of problems. So they've had to go back and get door cards adjusted and some visors, tweaks and stuff, because there's been a few squeaks and rattles. But that's the only thing. It's been pretty faultless.
And that's fixed the issue? The squeaks have gone? It's not like one of those squeaks you can never find? It's actually rectified the issue? Yeah.
So with my car, it was two rear door guards, sort of near the rear seats by the speakers. They were just rattling. So they just took them off, and I think there's a broken clip or something. So they just refitted it, and it's been fine since.
Okay, that's an easy fix. When you buy a new car, do you put paint protection film on it, or you just leave it as standard?
I don't. I leave it standard. So this is why people say why do you go for the standard white? It's actually really, really easy to keep clean. If you get a stone chip or whatever, it's really easy just to deal with it, because you haven't got a fussy color to deal with. So and I drive the car every day, so you do pick up stone chips, but touch wood, it's looking great. It does come with a bit of PPF around the rear wheel arches.
Yes,
from factory.
One,
yeah. And that does help.
I just want to tell the listeners, just so the listeners know, because there's no video to this podcast, even on YouTube, but Jeremy's looking out of his window and admiring his 992. He keeps looking, out the window and looking at it and smiling. That's what Porsche ownership is all about. You start to talk about it and you start to realize, what you really have. Let's talk about the drive situation and the great drives, because I always like to ask that question. If someone's coming to the Cotswolds or someone's coming to the UK, is there a road, Jeremy, that you would say definitely take your 911 on, take your sports car on? Or is there a road you would suggest, you've driven a lot in Europe, is there somewhere in Europe where you would say to a Porsche owner, definitely take a trip to Europe and definitely take your car there, or hire a 911 and drive it around there?
Yeah, so in the Cotswolds, we've got loads of great roads, but it's especially at the moment, it's so busy. With everyone having to sort of staycation, everyone's coming to the Cotswolds, so it's just full of cyclists and caravans and motorhomes. So if you're going to come to the Cotswolds, come early, sort of 6-7 in the morning. My particular favourite road is a road called Fish Hill, which is just outside Broadway. It's a 2-lane road that goes up a winding hill, and you can go pretty flat up that hill if you're early in the morning and the police aren't around. That's my particular favourite road. But all over the Cotswolds, there's some great ones, but you just need to be early. Europe, we took the 718 down to the Black Forest. That was particularly amazing, actually. Great road surface, no potholes, great signage, no police, great places to stop off and have a bit of lunch. So the Black Forest was a really pleasant surprise for us. And then we went down to somewhere called Forte dei Marmi on the Italian Riviera. And I've never been to a place with so many Porsches in one town in my life. It was Porsche heaven. Apparently all the guys that live in Milan go there for the weekend.
What is it called? Where is it, Jeremy?
Forte dei Marmi, in Italy, on the Italian Riviera.
Right.
It's a bit like the sort of Saint-Tropez of Italy. But I've never been in a place with so many Porsches. I mean, they're just everywhere. Yeah. You don't even feel slightly special.
You just feel like just everyone's got the same car.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some great roads. I mean, that's the best thing about the 911, the road, experiencing all the roads. And that's what I miss the most, not driving my car and not getting out there. That's why I always say when I get back to Australia in October or end of October, I'm definitely going to put a lot of miles on my 911, that's for sure. Because you realize how much you miss it when you're away from it. And also being in the UK now at the moment, being in the UK here and also not being able to go back to Bahrain because of the red zone and then the nice weather, and you think, you really want to start driving. You want to start driving and getting out there, because I start to see all the cars around here in Canary Wharf, or when we went to Kensington High Street the other day on a weekend, which was not probably a good idea. There was Porsches and Ferraris and everything was there out last Saturday, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So what else? So the Targa's going to come next. That's going to be the next one. Is there anything at all that you want to add to the 992 though? Is there any type of modification or personalization, even though you've optioned it the way you like it, that you would like to add to the 992?
No, I'm keeping it as it is. I wouldn't change a thing. I absolutely love it. But, I just know that in a year's time, I'll be wanting to sort of move on. Even the dealerships keeps talking about electric 911s, and it scares me.
But I don't think that's going to happen this generation, is it? I mean, it's really hard to get that information from anywhere. I mean, it's Porsche keep it very close to their chest. But I know the 992, you can see by the dashboard and even though the dashboard has that harking back to the 70s sort of 911s in a way, the modern touches of the 70s 911s, it would work in a hybrid or electric format. I don't know. Do you think it's going to happen this generation, or you think it's going to happen the next generation?
Yeah, I think it's going to happen sooner than we think. I mean, because apparently the 992 is designed for you just to put an electric motor in there. It's all ready to go. You can just take out the engine and put an electric motor in. It's all designed, ready to go. So
because we know the Macans are coming, right? We know the SUVs are coming. That's a definite, and they're coming 2022 model year, I think, isn't it? I think that's what they said for the Macan EV. I still worry about Porsche, and I still think I'm not like a Tesla fan, but I do worry about Porsche, and I worry about watching these videos on YouTube with Shimmy 150 and even the other guy that does the Car Talk podcast and doesn't have a Porsche Taycan, he has some other electric car that he just bought. And the infrastructure, if you're not Tesla, it just has issues, and it's not as reliable, and it's not as easy. You think that's going to be a problem in the UK? I know it'll be a problem in Australia because there's just no infrastructure. Yeah. But in the UK, I think, Tesla, we hired a Tesla, a couple of times last summer, and it was actually okay. Or a couple of summers ago, I should say. And it was okay. It was easy. But Porsche thing just doesn't seem easy, the charging network.
Yeah. No, I watched the same video that Shmi did with his Taycan. And, either the chargers aren't working, or, there's a massive queue to jump on the system. And I think the cost isn't it's not much of a saving either. It can cost you, £20-30 to fill up.
Did that surprise you, Jeremy? Sorry, did that surprise you, the cost, when he was paying for it? It really surprised me. I did not think it would be that expensive.
Yeah, it really, really did surprise me. And he's like me. I don't have a garage or anything, so my car's on the road outside the house. So it's charging for me is not an option.
So you don't have a garage?
No.
That doesn't.
No.
Okay. I couldn't live with that, right? So you have your brand new 992, and it's outside in English weather.
Yeah, and it's got a 924 across the road, and I can see a 996 as well. We're all in the same boat. We're all parked on the road.
Are you someone that likes to detail your car and keep your car clean, or it's not that big a priority for you?
Yeah, my neighbours really tease me because I clean it nearly every day. I cannot have it looking dirty. So it gets washed pretty much every day.
Well, you're living in the right area, that's for sure, because it sounds like there's a lot of Porsche Passion happening there. I do watch YouTube channels, and I'm sure you do too. I noticed that TGE, with all his Porsches, he's moved to the Cotswolds as well, hasn't he? Or he said he had a house in the Cotswolds. So you might see that Carrera GT on the road around there.
Yeah, his Porsche collection's getting pretty crazy, isn't it? Every week is something new. But you're right. He has moved locally.
Yeah, I have to say though that Rint vehicle design in the UK, I think they do a great job. I've been watching that Targa series that he's been doing, and they really do a great job on restoring Porsches. I know there's a lot of places that do it, but I'm pretty impressed from what I've seen so far. Like Brian at Rint Vehicle Designers does a really good job.
Yeah, and we've also got some pretty good car shows, especially the Porsche shows in the Cotswolds. I don't know if you went to Oil Cooled last year.
No, I didn't. Is that coming up again?
Yeah, they're doing it again this summer. So I could not recommend a show more. I mean, it's fantastic.
Box and Gas, right? So that's yeah.
Near Vista, and I'll never forget last year being in a traffic jam with about 105, 110, and 911s. It was fantastic. Right from early 60s cars to right up to 992s, and even a couple of Taycans. It was a traffic jam I'll never forget.
Yeah, I'd like to go to that. So that's in end of August, though, isn't it? Somewhere around in August time, isn't it?
So something like that, yeah.
Yeah, hopefully I'm still here. I've got to go back to the Middle East, so hopefully I will be here because I would like to go to that. I was supposed to go to Classics at the Clubhouse on the 27th of June, last Sunday, and I couldn't make it because of work commitments. And that looked like a great event too that PJ, who's been on Owner Stories, organised. I saw an aerial shot of it just earlier. There's so many cars there. It was actually quite a big event, much bigger than I thought, actually. But that's great about the UK. Sorry?
And of course, you've got the Festival of Speed next week.
Yeah, exactly.
Goodwood.
Yeah. Are you going to that?
I am. I'm going on the Friday, yeah.
Oh, you are?
Can't wait.
Okay. Fantastic. All right, Jeremy. You've done well, I have to say. I like the 992. I like it in the base format. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the Carrera. I mean, I like the Carrera S as well, but I think even if I was looking at buying a 992, I'd probably look at the Carrera first, for a cost point of view, and also because, like you said, do you really need that much power? And I think it's good how you had the lead in from the 718. And I think what's great, and what a lot of other owners enjoy as well, is that you really enjoy your cars. You drive them, you use them daily, and I think that's what it should be about.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All I'll say because I was really nervous about pulling the trigger on my first Porsche, I thought the servicing costs and the running costs would be horrendous. And they were just the same as my Audis and BMWs and Mercedes before. There's very little difference. So if you're thinking about it, just do it.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think that's a great point. And I've had Audis before as well. And as I've said, the cost of, I've got an older Porsche, but the cost of my car is really, it's in some things less expensive than what the Audi was.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's weird. And it's weird when you haven't got a Porsche and you worry about all those costs. You worry about, and I remember there was someone on Owner Stories, and I can't remember who it was, who said that they didn't get their Porsche when they wanted to get their Porsche because they were worried about maintenance costs, so they went to another car manufacturer. They bought something else. And then, a few years later, they went back to Porsche because they were worried about those costs. And then once they got their 911, they realized it wasn't actually as bad as what you think it may be. And I think that's a really important point. But the fact with you that you buy new cars and you have that guarantee, that warranty, and you're building up that relationship so you can go to your dealer and get your Targa GTS in a few years' time.
Yeah, hope so.
All right, Jeremy, we're almost at the hour.
Great.
Is there anything else you'd like to tell the listeners before we go?
No, it was just a personal thanks to you and for this fantastic podcast. It's I really look forward to it every Tuesday, I think, isn't it? And I really enjoy it. So thank you.
Thanks. That's great. Thank you. Thank you, Jeremy. Yeah, and I don't know if I said to the listeners earlier, Jeremy's been following me on YouTube for some time. He's a long time follower. I don't post the videos as much. I don't really post many Porsche videos at the moment. When I go back to Sydney, I will. Jeremy, great to have you on. Thanks for joining me on this Wednesday evening. Great to chat. Great to meet up at last.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure everyone's going to enjoy your story. So thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Great. Thanks for your time.
All right, everyone. That's Jeremy coming in from the UK, from the Cotswolds, with his 992 Carrera in white. A beautiful, beautiful example. And that's about it for today. Thanks for listening to the PorscheCooled Podcast. Bye for now.